Hello, this is Alessandrina with Dexter and Alessandrina. And today I want to talk about self-love and ways in which, in a very, very practical manner, you can love yourself more. And the first step to that might be to realize where you're not loving yourself. So if you're doing things that you don't like doing, and there is a way to reorganize your life and yourself so that you don't do them, then that's not necessarily loving yourself. Now, I'm not talking about doing things that are actually beneficial to your growth. I'm really talking about just things that are more conditioned into us and that we do, and we don't really enjoy them, and we keep doing them. It's like a program. So realizing where you're doing that and therefore not loving yourself. Realizing where you're judging yourself and therefore you're not loving yourself. Recognizing ways in which you're holding on to old beliefs that don't feel good and that limit you, that prevent you from making more loving and conscious choices, and that's not loving yourself. Being in fear and not facing your fear, for fear of your fear, of feeling it for 5 minutes as you transcend it, instead of holding on to it maybe for decades or for lifetimes. So we're not loving ourselves when we're not working on our fears, on really dismantling our fears. And that's okay. You can love not loving yourself also. That's a way to apply love, self-love. So the first step to cultivating self-love and feeling more self-love, more love of self, is to become aware of ways in which you're not doing that, without judgment, without expectation that things should be different. If you've learned through your conditioning not to love yourself, how could you do anything else? If you had learned to love yourself fully and completely, then you would be doing it. So why judge yourself for your conditioning? Or even your parents, they were also conditioned. If they had learned how to love themselves, then they would love themselves. And we don't teach that in school. So if we don't teach it in school, and it's not necessarily been a priority in society, then we don't experience it. We don't know it. We haven't explored it. We don't know what it feels like. So we do know what it feels like not to love ourselves, because we do that a lot. And that feels like negative thoughts, negative emotions, tension in the body, conflict, inner conflict and outer conflict, self-doubt. So how wonderful to start your journey into self-love by non-judgmentally exploring ways in which you're not loving yourself. And of course, it doesn't end there. If you were to end with a list of all the ways you're not loving yourself, that might feel a little bit overwhelming or disappointing, or maybe depressing for some people, sad. So if you apply non-judgment, and that's not easy because we are also conditioned into judging, if you do your best to apply non-judgment, to learn what it is to look at things without judging them, then you can have this list and not be too emotionally charged around it. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to apply a process to releasing this pain, to releasing this lack of self-love that I'm carrying. So one by one, for instance, you can apply the forgive and forget technique that we teach, which is a wonderful method taught in Ayurveda, a marma. And through this process, it's a very intelligent process. By applying this process, you can clear that old energy. You can free yourself from those programs that are not loving. towards you. And so as you apply this method or any other method, you may have learned your own method and it works for you, and that's great. And there are many different ways of transmuting old energies, liberating old energies. So there's no right way. There's the way that's right for you, the way that you do it, that you practice it because you enjoy it, because you feel the benefits of it. And of course, that takes having gotten to a point where we're less addicted to our negative emotions, so we can make that choice to say, oh, I'm going to use this technique right now and transmute the old energy. So being patient with yourself, again, being loving to yourself, and realizing that if you're not applying a process, it's because there's resistance, because there's the addiction to the negative emotions. Because you might be believing a lot of different things about yourself that then revalidate that you should not feel good, you should feel bad. So until those are gone, there's going to be the tendency to revisit negative emotions over and over again, because it revalidates that you're a bad person, or something's wrong, or you're not good enough, or life is not good. So when you become aware of that resistance, you can work with the resistance, by the way. You can also forgive the resistance, and that will help. It will help you move through faster and be able to then apply a process of forgiveness or of transmutation, energetic transmutation. So you're an inner alchemist. You're alchemizing the energy. You're doing what you're choosing with it. Instead of the energy playing itself out into the old programs, you're liberating it and then transmuting it into something different. Just like metal turned into gold by an alchemist. So you're being an alchemist of your emotions, of your energy. And so as you're forgiving all the places, all the ways in which you're not loving yourself, you're now turning it into love. And so you are transmuting the lack of love into love in this process. And if you are aware of that, that is even more powerful, because you're not just forgiving and liberating the energy, you're now very consciously focusing the energy on something, which is love, which is what you wanted to experience. So you're loving the forgiveness, you're loving the transmutation, you're loving the whole process, you're loving your lack of love into love. And so you are learning love, you are exploring it, you are becoming familiar with it. And as you do, as you repeat that process over and over again, then you become more love, and you continue to let go of more parts of yourself that were not in love, or expressing love, or being in love, or loving yourself, or loving you. And so there's more and more room. It's kind of like if you had a cup of tea and it was full, then there would not be any room for more tea or a new cup of tea. So first, making room, making space in the cup, in your vessel, in yourself, so that there's room for love. So that the parts that were taking up space in not love, which is fear really, replacing, having made space, replacing the not love with love. And even more deeply realizing that there was never not love. It was all imagined by your mind. And therefore all there ever was love. And you're simply becoming aware of it. So this little trick of transmutation, this forgiveness, is just a process to get you to realize there's only love. And that's wonderful. It's okay not to have known that. It's okay not to have realized that there's only love. It's okay to get lost in our programs, to become unconscious, and to go into not love. And the more you practice love, the less unconscious you'll go. The more love will be your default mode, your form of expression. And that's truly a wonderful thing. And I wish it for you. I wish that you explore for yourself what love is for you, and that you release all the parts of yourself that did not know that all there is love, and then that you actualize this self-love for yourself. And I hope that this video helps you do that it gives you a grounded, practical foundation of understanding to realize that all there is love, and to realize that any part that are not experiencing that are in an illusion, that they are incorrect. They are in a program, and they're not seeing what is. They're not seeing reality. I hope this helps you tremendously in your process of loving yourself more. And when you love yourself more, you will love the world, because we cannot love anyone else. We cannot love the world if we're not loving ourselves. We may imagine that we can love somebody else, and ultimately, if we have any self-judgment, then that will be projected onto that other somebody else, even if we suppress it to our conscious mind, because we don't want to identify with that, with not being loving. So loving yourself so that you can love more. Yourself and all that is. And when you love anything that you love around you, that's you experiencing love. So it's more love, more internal love. The more you love, the more you feel love. I hope this is helpful to you. Sending you lots of love.